Hello, my dear friends. Today I'm bringing you an incredible story about the true meaning of wealth and the lengths a parent will go to save their child. This is a tale that will touch your heart and keep you on the edge of your seat. If you enjoy stories about family, sacrifice, and redemption, please hit that like button and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your support means the world to me. The Mediterranean gleamed like liquid sapphire beneath the August sun, but Richard Hartwell saw none of its beauty. From the upper deck of his 300-foot yacht, Catherine's Dream, the billionaire watched his daughter Emma lean dangerously over the rail below, her body language screaming everything her silence wouldn't say. At 58, Richard commanded 40,000 employees in a tech empire worth $30 billion. Yet he couldn't bridge 20 feet of distance to his only child. Another champagne, Mr. Hartwell, Marcus, the steward, appeared silently. No, Richard's eyes never left Emma. 2 years since Catherine's death, and the gulf between them had become an ocean. This cruise was supposed to heal them. Instead, it highlighted every fracture. Emma's auburn hair, Catherine's exact shade, whipped violently in the wind. She gripped the railing with white knuckles, her designer dress a mockery of the tomboy who used to climb trees in their Hampton estate. When had she become this brittle stranger? Dad's watching again, Sophia whispered. Joining Emma, let him watch. It's all he does, observe from his throne while his empire grows. Emma's voice carried bitter ice. The yacht sliced through swells at 15 knots. Monaco 3 days behind them, Santorini ahead. Richard had cleared the weeks his longest absence from work. Since Catherine's funeral, pathetic, he knew, but the Singapore merger had required no stop. He forced away thoughts of acquisition documents awaiting his signature. Just talk to him, Sophia urged, and say what? Thanks for finally noticing I exist. He threw specialists at Mom's cancer like it was a hostile takeover. Built an entire hospital wing, but couldn't sit through one chemo session. Emma's words floated up, each syllable a precise wound. Too many board meetings to hold her hand while poison dripped into her veins. Richard flinched. She was right. He tried to purchase Catherine's survival, to negotiate with death itself. When that failed, work became his morphine, numbing him to the unbearable reality of her absence. His phone buzzed. Singapore again. Richard powered it off completely, a first in 20 years. Mr. Hartwell, Captain Morrison appeared. Weather service reports rough seas ahead. Nothing dangerous, but we should secure loose items. Maintain course. Richard had reservations at the Clifftop restaurant where he'd proposed to Catherine. 25 years ago, he planned to share the story with Emma, to offer something real instead of wire transfers and apologies. The waves grew throughout the afternoon. The yacht's stabilizers compensated, but Richard noticed Emma's grip tightening. On the rail, something in her posture, a recklessness, a letting go sent ice through his veins. I'm going inside, Sophia announced, queasy. This rocking, Emma barely acknowledged her departure. Mesmerized by the churning water 20 feet below, the Mediterranean had turned from friend to predator, foam-white teeth gnashing at the hull. Richard made his decision. No more waiting. No more perfect moments that never came. He descended the stairs, his Italian leather shoes silent on wet teak. Emma. She stiffened. Important call. Tokyo? Brussels? Or someone in Sydney needs the great Richard Hartwell. No. Calls. I wanted to talk about. About what? She spun, tears streaming. About pretending we're family. About how you disappeared when Mom needed you most. Her voice cracked. Do you know her last words? She said she understood. That your company was your first love and she'd made peace with it. But I haven't. I'll never make peace with it. Richard reached for her. She jerked backward, her heel catching a coiled rope. Time dilated. Emma teetered, arms windmilling, mouth opening in surprise. Richard lunged, fingers grazing her sleeve. As she toppled backward over the rail, her scream cut short at impact. The splash seemed impossibly small for a human life. Richard didn't think, didn't breathe. Didn't even kick off his shoes. He vaulted the railing in one motion, the world blurring into blue and white and the endless falling. 3 seconds of free fall, his tail whipping upward before the Mediterranean punched the air from his lungs. Cold, crushing cold despite the summer heat. His Armani suit became lead chains, dragging him toward the bottom. Richard kicked frantically, breaking surface, gasping, searching, screaming. Emma. The yacht's massive momentum carried it forward even as alarms shrieked and engines reversed. Already 50 yards separated them, growing with each second. their auburn hair appearing and vanishing with each swell. 20 yards away. Too far, but not for a father, never for a father. Richard Hartwell began swimming toward his daughter, knowing with crystalline clarity that he would save her or die trying. There was no third option. Not anymore. Salt water filled Richard's mouth as a wave crashed over him, his $60,000 suit now, straitjacket trying to drown him. He fought the jacket off while swimming, an impossible task that cost precious seconds. Emma's head surfaced 30 feet away. She was conscious, but panicking, her designer dress tangling her legs like seaweed. "Hold on, baby, I'm coming." The words emerged as gasps between strokes. Richard hadn't swum seriously in 35 years. Not since college, but his body remembered. Muscle memory wired with middle-aged reality. Every stroke burned. His lungs already screaming for oxygen he couldn't spare. The yacht had finally stopped. Engines dead, but momentum had carried it to 100 yards away. Crew members lined the rails. He could see Morrison barking orders, a lifeboat being lowered with agonizing slowness. Out here, without the yacht's bulk as windbreak, the waves were mountains. Emma went under. Richard's world contracted to that spot of churning water. He kicked off his Italian shoes, $5,000 sinking into the Mediterranean and Dove. Underwater, cathedral rays of sunlight pierced the blue, beautiful and terrible. His eyes burned from salt as he searched frantically. There, a pale form sinking, arms drifting upward in surrender. He grabbed Emma round the waist, her body limp, and kicked toward surface with strength he didn't possess. His chest was exploding, vision darkening at edges, but he kicked harder. They broke through together, Richard gasping while trying to keep Emma's head above water. She wasn't breathing. No, God, please. Water kept washing over them, making rescue breathing impossible. Where was that fucking lifeboat? Richard treaded water desperately, his right leg already cramping. The irony wasn't lost. All his billions couldn't buy him strength or youth or gills. Money meant nothing out here. Only what mattered. Emma's eyes fluttered. She coughed, vomited seawater, then went limp again, alive but fading. "Stay with me, baby, please." Richard's teeth chattered uncontrollably despite the warm water. Hypothermia was setting in his body, burning too many calories, trying to keep them afloat. How long had they been in? 5 minutes, 10. Time meant nothing anymore. A wave larger than the rest rose behind them, a blue-green wall of glass. Richard saw it coming, took the deepest breath he could manage, and dove, pulling Emma down to avoid the worst impact. Underwater, her hair swirled around them like red silk. A memory flashed, teaching her to swim at age 4, her delighted shrieks. When he'd throw her high, Catherine laughing from her lounger, they surfaced into chaos. The wave had driven them further from the yacht. Richard's right leg had locked completely, the cramp spreading up his thigh. He was swimming in circles, unable to maintain direction. The lifeboat looked impossibly far away. "Sir, Mr. Hartwell." Voices carrying over water, but sound traveled strangely out here. Everything felt disconnected, dreamlike. Another wave, another dive. Each time, Richard struggled more to resurface. His body was shutting down system by system. The strange clarity that comes with hypothermia was setting in. He could feel his core temperature dropping, his heart laboring, his thoughts scattering like startled fish. Emma's eyes open, unfocused. "Dad, I'm here. I've got you. Can't feel my legs." "It's okay. Help's coming." The light came easily. Richard could barely keep them afloat. His vision was tunneling, darkness creeping in from edges. Strange thoughts flitted through and signed contracts. His will. The Santorini reservation they'd never make. "I'm sorry," Emma whispered. "About Mom. About everything. I was so angry. Save your strength. Wanted to hurt you like you hurt us." Her words slurred. "Stupid. So stupid. None of that matters." Richard's kicks were weakening, uncoordinated. The yacht looked like a white castle floating impossibly high above the water. He could see Sophia at the rail, screaming, "Good, let someone care. Let someone mourn them properly." A rope splashed nearby. Richard grabbed for it with numb fingers, missing twice before wrapping it around his wrist. The lifeboat was finally close, 10 yards, but his strength was gone, completely gone. "Take her," he managed to say to the reaching hands. "Take her first." Strong arms lifted Emma from his grasp. The moment she left his arms, Richard's body gave up. He slipped beneath the surface, sinking fast, the rope sliding through nerveless fingers. Above, sunlight danced on waves. Below, Darkness waited patiently. His last thought was absurdly clear. Catherine would be furious if he died in an Armani suit. She'd always said he loved his wardrobe more than life itself. The joke was on her. He'd gladly trade every suit, every car, every dollar for 5 more minutes of strength. Just enough to see Emma safe. But time was up. The accounts were balanced. Richard Hartwell closed his eyes and let the Mediterranean claim its payment. For his daughter's life, it seemed a fair trade, the only trade worth making. Water filled his lungs. Darkness completed its embrace. Somewhere far above, hands reached through sunlight, grasping for a billionaire who had finally learned what was worth drowning for. Rhythmic beeping pulled Richard from the void. His throat felt like he'd swallowed broken glass, and every cell in his body screamed in protest. The yacht's medical suite materialized slowly, mahogany panels, pristine equipment, and Dr. Helena Voss studying charts with her signature Austrian precision. Welcome back, Mr. Hartwell. You nearly crossed a line from which there is no return. Emma, the word came out as a rasp, alive, recovering next door. You saved her. Dr. Voss adjusted his fore with practiced efficiency, though you flatlined twice in the process. Core temperature of 89 degrees, your heart stopped for 90 seconds. Richard tried to sit up. The room spun violently. Need to see, soon. First, we discuss your condition. Her expression turned grave. The hypothermia triggered cardiac arrhythmia. We used the defibrillator twice. Your heart is damaged not just from today, but from years of neglect. When did you last have a physical? Richard couldn't remember. Catherine had always scheduled his appointments after she died. 3 years, maybe 4. Your blood pressure could kill a horse. Cholesterol levels that belong in a textbook. Pre-diabetic. 60 pounds overweight. She pulled a chair close. Mr. Hartwell, you're a massive heart attack waiting to happen. This incident may have saved your life by forcing us to run tests you've been avoiding. I run a company with 40,000 employees who'll need a new CEO when you drop dead at your desk, which, given these numbers, will happen within 5 years, probably sooner. Dad? Emma's voice from the doorway, weak but unmistakably alive. She stood in a hospital gown, clutching in for pole, looking devastatingly young. They said your heart stopped, that you died. Rumors of my death. Don't joke. She stumbled to his bedside, tears flowing. You jumped off a yacht for me. You can't even climb stairs without wheezing, and you jumped into the ocean. Richard caught her hand, warm, real, alive. You're my daughter. What else could I do? But I've been horrible. Since Mom died, I blamed you, hated you, said unforgivable things. You were grieving. We both were. Emma collapsed into the chair, sobbing. When I went under, all I could think was that I'd never said I loved you. Not once since Mom got sick. Then you were there, and we were both drowning. And I'd wasted 2 years being angry about something that doesn't even matter anymore. We have time now, do we? She looked at Dr. Voss. Tell him about his heart. The doctor's expression was clinical. Significant coronary artery disease. 3 vessels severely blocked. The stress of the rescue triggered what we call a cardiac event. Not quite a heart attack, but close. Without intervention, surgical intervention, another event is inevitable. Richard's mind automatically shifted to problem-solving mode, restructuring meetings, delegating responsibilities, managing. This like any other crisis. Then he saw Emma's terrified face and realized he was doing it again, treating life like a spreadsheet to balance. What do I need to do? This time, he asked Emma, not the doctor. Stop, she whispered. Just stop. Stop working 20-hour days. Stop treating your body like a machine. Stop choosing the company over everything else. Her voice broke completely. I already lost Mom. I can't lose you two. I can't. Captain Morrison appeared, hat in hand. Sorry to interrupt. We've made port in Mykonos. Authorities need statements, and he hesitated. Corporate's been calling nonstop. The Singapore deal. Richard felt the familiar pull, adrenaline spiking at the mention of his 6-month baby. $8 billion. 4,000 jobs. Market transformation. His phone, somehow dried out and functional, showed 57 missed calls. Tell them. He paused, looking at Emma. When had she gotten so thin? When had those lines appeared around her eyes? 23 going on 40. Aged by grief and anger and fear. Tell them Richard Hartwell is taking indefinite medical leave. Jameson can handle. Singapore. Morrison's eyes widened. Sir, the board can either accept it or find a new CEO. I'm done choosing wrong. Dad, you don't have to. Yes, I do. Richard squeezed her hand tighter. Your mother begged me for years. The company won't collapse without you. She'd say, but we will. I didn't listen. Thought I had infinite time. His voice cracked. I don't have infinite anything. None of us do. Dr. Voss interjected. I've arranged transport to Athens General. They have excellent cardiac surgeons. Surgery within the week. Then 3 to 6 months recovery minimum. Complete lifestyle overhaul. Cancel. Athens. Cancel everything. Richard had built his fortune by seeing opportunities others missed. He saw one now. Emma, remember that summer in Tuscany when you were 12? A ghost of a smile crossed her face. Mom locked your phone in the hotel. Safe? You almost cried. But then I didn't. 3 weeks of just being present. No calls. No crisis management. Just us. The memory hurt and healed simultaneously. What if we did that again? Not 3 weeks, 3 months. 6 months. Whatever it takes. You're serious. I jumped off a yacht for you. I think I've established my commitment to grand gestures. He turned to Morrison. Find us somewhere quiet. Good medical facilities. Somewhere to just exist. Emma was crying again, but these were different tears. You mean it? You'll really walk away? I made vows once, 25 years ago. Promised to love and protect my family above all else. Richard's voice was steady despite the pain. I broke those vows every day for decades. Not anymore. The board will panic, Morrison warned. Stock prices, Captain, I died for 90 seconds today. Do you honestly think I give a fuck about stock prices? Emma leaned forward, resting her head on his shoulder like she used to as a child. We'll figure it out together. Mom always said, you could learn anything when you finally paid attention. She also said I was stubborn as a mule. That too. Her voice was muffled against his shoulder. Dad, thank you for jumping, for saving me, for choosing us. Richard kissed her head, smelling salt water and medical disinfectant and somehow, impossibly, Catherine's perfume. Always, baby, from now on, always. Outside the porthole, the Mediterranean stretched endlessly blue, the same water that had almost claimed them both. But Richard saw it differently now, not as the enemy that had nearly killed him, but as the teacher that had shown him what was worth dying for and, more importantly, what was worth living for. The Swiss Rehabilitation Center looked like where billionaires went to die beautifully, all glass and steel melting into alpine perfection. It whispered discretion and astronomical prices. Richard stood on his balcony 6 weeks later, 20 pounds lighter, breathing air so pure it hurt. His phone remained locked in the director's safe of daily torture and liberation. You're up at 5 again. Emma appeared with herbal tea. Her own recovery evident in the fullness returned to her face. Dr. Brennan specifically said 8 hours. Minimum, old habits. Richard accepted the mug chamomile instead of his usual triple espresso. His body mourned caffeine like a lost lover. How was yesterday's session? Good. Dr. Keller thinks I'm processing the grief better. Emma had agreed to therapy as part of their deal. His body, her mind, both broken and healing. We talked about Mom's last months, the good moments, not just the dying. Tell me one. Remember when she made us do that 1,000-piece puzzle during her final round of chemo? She insisted on finding every single edge piece first, even though she could barely sit up. She finished it 2 days before Richard stopped, before she died. It's okay to say it, Dad. She died. Saying it doesn't make it more real. They stood in comfortable silence, watching dawn paint the peaks gold. Below, other patients emerged, CEOs, senators, addicts with Swiss bank accounts. All here learning the same brutal lesson. Money couldn't purchase immortality. Mr. Hartwell, Marcus, his wellness coach, materialized, ready for morning meditation. Richard suppressed a groan. 6 weeks of sitting cross-legged, pretending his mind wasn't calculating market projections. Is mild torture really necessary for cardiac health? Buddha would say suffering is optional. Marcus smiled serenely, but your insurance company says meditation is mandatory. The session was agony. 40 minutes of observing thoughts without attachment while his brain screamed about abandoned acquisitions and unsupervised employees. Breathe in, breathe out. Notice the panic about quarterly reports and release it, right? Richard noticed it all right, noticed how anxiety multiplied exponentially in stillness. You're clenching again, Marcus observed. Remember, thoughts are clouds passing through. Empty sky. Richard's thoughts weren't clouds. They were attack helicopters with nuclear payloads. The Singapore deal had probably imploded. The board was likely plotting succession. 40 years of empire building crumbling while he sat here pretending to be empty fucking sky. Dad? Emma's interruption was salvation. Dr. Brennan needs you. Says it's important. Richard escaped gratefully. The relief evaporated seeing Brennan's expression. The Swiss-German cardiac specialist wasted no words, sliding test results across his desk. Good news first. Heart function improved. Ejection fraction up to 45%. Bad news? That's still significantly below normal. More concerning. He pointed to ECG readouts that looked like abstract art. Stress test shows severe ischemia. 3 vessels blocked worse than initially thought. Medication isn't enough, meaning surgery, triple bypass, possibly quadruple, within 2 weeks or risk another event. Brandon's expression softened marginally. I've consulted with Dr. Rashid at University Hospital Zurich, best cardiac surgeon in Europe. He has an opening Thursday. Richard stared at the papers documenting his mortality. I need to think. Process? Delay. Brennan interrupted. Mr. Hartwell, thinking time is what got you here. Your heart is failing. Another event like the yacht, and your daughter won't get another miracle. Richard left the office numb. Surgery meant admitting his body's betrayal. It meant weeks of recovery, months of rehabilitation, accepting that death wasn't theoretical anymore. Dad, Emma waited in the hallway, reading his face instantly. What did he say? Just test results. Nothing urgent. Her eyes narrowed dangerously. You're lying. Protecting me again. Mom did the same thing when she first found the lump. Didn't tell anyone for 3 months. The parallel hit perfectly. Catherine had hidden symptoms until treatment options narrowed to Hail Marys. It's not the same, isn't it? Emma crossed her arms, suddenly looking exactly like her mother in battle mode. You promised. No more secrets. No more managing everyone else's emotions while ignoring reality. Richard ran fingers through hair more gray than memory allowed. Brennan recommends surgery. Triple bypass. Soon Emma absorbed this, her face cycling through fear, anger, and determination. Thursday, Emma. Dr. Rashid has an opening Thursday. I already called. At his expression, she shrugged. I hacked your medical portal. Password was still Catherine 1999. Really, Dad? How did you? I'm my father's daughter. Also, Sophia helped. She's good with computers. Emma pulled out her phone. I've researched Rashid. Trained at Cleveland Clinic. 8,000 successful procedures. We're confirming Thursday. I haven't decided. Yes, you have. Because the alternative is dying, and that's not an option. Her voice stayed steady, but her hands trembled. I'll coordinate with Jameson for temporary power of attorney. Sophia's flying in tomorrow to help. When did you and Sophia become friends again? When I stopped being an insufferable bitch. Drowning in grief. Emma's phone buzzed. That's her now. She's handling logistics from New York. Richard felt the familiar comfort of competent people taking charge, then remembered he was supposed to be learning to let go. I can handle. No, you can't. You handle by controlling, and control is killing you. Emma pocketed her phone. So I'm handling this. You just focus on not dying. Something loosened in Richard's chest that had nothing to do with blocked arteries. When did you get so capable? When my father jumped off a yacht for me. Turns out almost losing everything. Clarifies priorities fast. She took his hand. Thursday. Dr. Rashid. No arguments. Yes, ma'am. The next day's blurred. Tests. Waivers. Conversations with lawyers about succession planning that Richard couldn't process. Sophia arrived, efficiently managing logistics while stealing glances at Emma that Richard pretended not to notice. Youth was adorable in its transparency. Wednesday night, before surgery, they sat on his balcony watching stars emerge over pristine peaks. The universe, indifferent to human drama, sparkled magnificently. Scared, Emma asked, terrified. The admission came easily now. You, same, but Mom faced worse. 18 months of treatment. And she never complained. Emma pulled out a worn envelope. She wrote you a letter the night before her last surgery. Made me promise to give it to you when you finally stopped running. Richard's hand shook taking the envelope. Catherine's handwriting. Still elegant despite the pain medication. My stubborn love. If Emma's giving you this, you finally slowed down enough to need it. Good. I've been trying to tell you for 25 years the empire you're building is made of sand. Our daughter is the only monument that matters. I'm not angry about the missed dinners or the conference calls during vacations. I understood, but understanding isn't the same as accepting. Don't make Emma understand. Make her know she's worth more than any acquisition. Have the surgery, Richard. Take the time. Learn to sit still without calculating profit margins. Maybe even let someone else be in charge occasionally. I know. Blasphemy. I love you. I've always loved you, even when you were being an impossible workaholic ass. Especially then, because I knew the gentleman underneath. The one who jumped in a pool fully clothed to save Emma's turtle when she was 5. That man is worth saving. Let them save you. All my love. CATHERINEPS. If you're reading this in some absurdly expensive Swiss clinic, I'm laughing from wherever I am. You never could do anything. Simply. Richard was crying. When had he started crying? Emma held him while he shook, 2 years of suppressed grief finally breaking through. She knew me so well. She loved you completely, even the broken parts. Emma wiped her own tears, especially those. I wasted so much time. Then don't waste more. Have the surgery, get better. We'll build something that matters. She pulled out another notebook. Catherine's planning journal. Mom had ideas. A foundation for cancer families, support system she wished we'd had. Want to hear them? They talked until dawn, planning a different empire. One built on compassion instead of competition. Richard fell asleep in his chair. Emma curled against his shoulder. Catherine's letter pressed to his chest. When they wheeled him into surgery 12 hours later, Richard wasn't afraid. Emma walked beside the gurney, promising to be there when he woke. Sophia stood with her, their hands almost touching. See you on the other side, Emma whispered, with better arteries. Richard managed, and better priorities. The anesthesia took him gently. Richard's last thought was of Catherine, probably laughing at the cosmic joke of it all. He'd spent 40 years building walls around his heart. Now surgeons would literally crack it open, forcing it to accept new pathways. The metaphor was so heavy-handed, even unconscious Richard had to smile. Catherine always said he needed to be hit with truth like a brick to notice it. Message received. My love, he thought as darkness claimed him. Message finally received. Consciousness returned in fragments. First, Mozart, Catherine's favorite piano. Sonata floating through expensive air. Then Emma's voice, reading financial reports like bedtime stories to her unconscious father. Singapore merger exceeded projections by 12%, particularly in emerging markets where the combined entities synergies. Richard opened his eyes. You're reading quarterly reports to a comatose man. Emma nearly dropped her tablet. Dad, you're awake. She lunged for the call button. I should get, wait. He caught her hand weakly. How long? 3 days. Surgery was complicated. Dr. Rashid had to do a quadruple bypass. Tears streamed down her face. You wouldn't wake up. I thought. I was so scared. Takes more than a little heart surgery to kill a heart. Well, Richard's voice came out raspy. But why the financial reports? I thought maybe if you heard about the company thriving, you'd want to wake up and micromanage something. She laughed through tears. Jameson sends daily updates. He's doing brilliantly. Stock's up 15% since you left. Traders, they were just waiting for me to leave. Or maybe they were waiting for you to trust them. Emma helped him sip water. Dr. Rashid will want to examine you. Also, Sophia's here, and Uncle David flew in yesterday. David's here? Richard hadn't spoken to his brother since Catherine's funeral. Another relationship sacrificed to the empire. He's been here every day. Says you to have 20 years of conversations to catch up on. Emma hesitated. He told me about when you were kids. How close you were before I got successful and insufferable. His words were driven and distant, but same idea. Emma stood. I should really get the doctor. And Sophia's getting coffee. She'll want to know you're awake. She left, and Richard lay still, cataloging his new reality. His chest felt like someone had parked construction equipment on it. But underneath the surgical pain, something felt different. His heartbeat was stronger, more regular, for cow arteries, Emma had mentioned. Catherine would have loved that detail. The door opened, admitting not medical staff, but Sophia, carrying coffee and looking exhausted. Mr. Hartwell, Emma said you were awake. Sophia, Emma says you flew in from New York. London, actually, was there for work. She set down the coffee, fidgeting. Former work. I resigned mid-flight. Email from 35,000 feet. HR probably thinks I've lost my mind. Why, Emma needed support. She was trying to be strong, but I could hear the terror when she called. Sophia met his eyes directly. I know you probably think I'm just her college friend, but Emma means everything to me. I couldn't sit in conference rooms while she faced this alone. Richard studied hurriedly, looked for the first time, saw the devotion, the careful distance she maintained from Emma, the way she orbited his daughter like a satellite afraid to crash into the planet. How long have you been in love with her? Sophia froze. I know that's not. I may have been absent, but I'm not blind. Though apparently bypass surgery improves observation skills, Richard adjusted his position. Wincing, does Emma know? No, and she won't. She's grieving her mother. Rebuilding her relationship with you, the last thing she needs is me complicating things. Love isn't a complication. It's the only thing that isn't. Richard thought of Catherine. Of all the years he'd complicated their love with ambition. Take it from someone who learned the late love is the simplest thing there is. We're the ones who make it complex. Before Sophia could respond, the door burst open. Emma entered with a parade of medical professionals led by Dr. Rashid Tall, kind-eyed, steady-handed genius who'd apparently saved Richard's life. Mr. Hartwell, excellent to see you conscious. Rashid began his examination with practiced efficiency. How's the pain? Manageable. He's lying. Emma interjected. He winced just breathing. Some discomfort is expected. We had to work extensively on the lad what we call the Widowmaker. 90% blocked. Another month and he trailed off diplomatically. When can I leave? Eager to return to work. Rashid's tone was mild but pointed. Eager to return to life, the real kind. Good answer. If all goes well, discharge in a week. Then cardiac rehabilitation for 6 months minimum. The lifestyle changes. We discussed our non-negotiable diet, exercise, stress management, therapy, psychological counseling. Heart surgery often triggers emotional responses, depression, anxiety, existential questioning, all normal, but need addressing. Richard almost laughed. Existential questioning. He'd been doing this since Emma hit the water. Whatever it takes. Excellent. I'll check back this evening. Rashid made notes. You have excellent support. That matters more than any medication. The parade filed out, leaving Richard with Emma and Sophia. The two women sat on opposite sides of his bed, carefully maintaining space between them. So, Richard said, tell me about this foundation planning. And Sophia, I want to hear about nonprofit financial structures. Emma says you have experience. They talked for hours, building something from Catherine's ashes. Emma had her mother's passion. Sophia had practical expertise, and Richard had resources and newfound perspective. By evening, they sketched out a framework that would have made Catherine proud. David arrived as the sun set, carrying Chinese takeout Richard couldn't eat and memories Richard had buried. You look like hell, David said, pulling up a chair. You look old, Richard countered. Happens when 20 years pass between conversations. David studied him, though near-death experiences apparently help with perspective. Everything helps with perspective when you're looking up from rock bottom. They talked while Emma and Sophia gave them privacy, about childhood, about choices, about the walls Richard had built between himself and everyone who mattered. David had become a pediatric surgeon, married a teacher, had 3 kids Richard had met exactly twice. I have a nephew in college, Richard said wonderingly. When did that happen? While you were conquering Silicon Valley. Jamie wants to be a writer. Drives his mother crazy, but he's good. Got your stubborn streak. Not mine. That's all Hartwell DNA. True. Dad could hold a grudge for decades. David paused. He asked about you, near the end. Wanted to know if you were happy. Their father had died 5 years ago. Richard had attended the funeral between meetings, left before the reception, to catch a flight to Shanghai. Another moment he couldn't reclaim. What did you tell him? The truth. That you were successful beyond imagination and miserable beyond description. I wasn't miserable. I was focused. Same thing with you, David. Lean forward. But you're different now. The brother I knew is peeking through all that armor. The armor's gone. Surgeons removed it along with the blocked arteries. Good. Catherine would be glad. They sat in comfortable silence. Brothers again after 2 decades of distance. Outside. Swiss twilight painted the mountains purple. Richard's heart beat steadily, for borrowed cow arteries doing their job. I want to meet your kids. Richard said, be an uncle. A real one. Not just a signature on birthday checks. They like that. Fair warning, Jamie will probably interview you for his senior thesis on American capitalism. Tell him I'm switching to Swedish socialism, shorter hours, better health care. Emma and Sophia returned with hot chocolate neither could drink but needed to hold. They curled up in chairs like bookends, still maintaining that careful distance. That fooled no one. We've been planning tomorrow's schedule, Emma announced. Sophia found a foundation lawyer who can fly in Thursday. You to make a good team, Richard observed innocently. Both women blushed. David hid a smile. We're just organized, Sophia said quickly. Very organized, Emma agreed. Practically synchronized. Richard added, earning glares from both. The evening wound down naturally. David left with promises to return tomorrow. Emma dozed in her chair, exhaustion finally winning. Sophia covered her with a blanket, the gesture so tender Richard's repaired heart ached. She hasn't slept properly in days, Sophia whispered. Kept vigil the whole time you were unconscious. And you kept vigil over her. Someone had to. Sophia studied Emma's sleeping face. She's stronger than she knows, like her mother. From what Emma's told me, Catherine would have loved you, Richard said simply. She had excellent taste in people, better than mine. You chose her. The one brilliant decision in 40 years of stupidity. Richard's eyes were getting heavy. Post-surgical exhaustion pulling him under. Sophia, don't wait 25 years to tell Emma. Don't waste time being afraid. Mr. Hartwell, Richard, we're family now, or will be eventually. He managed a smile. Life's too short and heart's too fragile. Trust someone who learned that the hard way. Sleep took him gently, but not before he heard Sophia whisper, maybe, after you're recovered, when things are stable. Richard wanted to tell her that things were never stable, that waiting for perfect moments meant missing imperfect ones. But morphine and exhaustion won, pulling him into dreams where Catherine sat at her piano, playing Mozart while snow fell on Swiss mountains and hearts beat strongly with borrowed parts. And borrowed time. Tomorrow, he'd wake to rehabilitation and responsibility. But tonight, surrounded by love he'd almost lost, a love still blooming. Richard Hartwell rested, his heart, broken and repaired, kept time to a rhythm older than empires and more valuable than any fortune, for cow arteries. And one saved daughter. Not a bad trade for a man who'd spent 40 years making deals. Not bad at all. October arrived in the Hamptons with spectacular grace, painting Catherine's abandoned greenhouse in amber light. Richard stood among the resurrected garden beds, watching Emma and Sophia struggle with a banner that read the Hartwell Family Foundation. Growing hope together. 6 months since the surgery, 30 pounds lighter, and his heart beat steadily beneath scars that had faded to thin white lines. Higher on the left, Emma called from her ladder, the October sun catching the auburn in her hair. This is the left. Sophia protested from her own precarious perch. Your other left. I only have one left. That's how directions work. Richard sipped his green tea. He'd actually developed a taste for it and marveled at the transformation, not just in the greenhouse, which had gone from mausoleum to Eden, but in all of them. Emma had gained back weight and light, her face no longer gaunt with grief. Sophia had evolved from Emma's friend to the foundation CFO to something more, though they still danced around definitions. Dad, stop looking paternal and help us, Emma called. Kent, doctor's orders. No ladders for another month. Richard touched his chest automatically, though he rarely thought about the surgery anymore. Convenient, Emma muttered, then shrieked as the banner slipped. Sophia lunged to catch it, overbalanced, and would have fallen if Emma hadn't caught her around the waist. They froze, Sophia in Emma's arms, faces inches apart. Richard became fascinated by his tea. Thanks, Sophia breathed. Always, Emma replied, then seemed to realize the weight of that word. They separated, blushing furiously. Returning to their battle with renewed determination, Mr. H. Marcus burst through the doors, transformed from wellness coach to foundation program director. Catering's here with the appetizers. They're saying someone needs to sign for the gluten-free, dairy-free, joy-free offerings. Sign yourself. That's why we pay you. You pay me in purpose and fulfillment. Marcus said dramatically, also excellent health insurance. The greenhouse slowly filled with their new family. Board members for the foundation, oncologists, social workers, patient advocates, and one reformed tech billionaire. The first families they'd be helping arrive tentatively, clutching information packets about support groups and resources Catherine had desperately wanted during her own battle. David appeared with his family, Richard finally meeting his nephews properly. The oldest, Jamie, immediately cornered him with questions about ethical capitalism that Richard answered honestly, admitting his failures alongside his successes. Uncle Richard, his youngest nephew, barely 10, tugged at his sleeve. Mom says, "You have cow parts in your heart. Can you moo? Only during board meetings." Richard said seriously, earning a laugh from the boy and an eye roll from David. Jameson arrived with his family, the man who'd taken over the empire and improved it. Stocks up another 8%, he reported automatically, then caught himself. "Sorry, old habit. How's the Singapore expansion? Ahead of schedule. The team you built is exceptional. They just needed room to breathe." Jameson studied him. "Any regrets?" Richard looked around the greenhouse at Emma, radiant with purpose, at Sophia sneaking glances at his daughter, at the families already connecting over shared struggles. "Not one." "Ladies and gentlemen," Dr. Brennan appeared at the makeshift podium. "Before our official program, I'd like to say something. 6 months ago, I told Richard Hartwell he was dying. Today, he's more alive than most healthy people. That's not just medical success, it's personal transformation. Richard, would you say a few words?" Richard hadn't prepared anything, but words came easily now. He took the podium, looking out at faces both familiar and new. 6 months ago, I jumped off a yacht to save my daughter. It was the first purely instinctive decision I'd made in decades. It nearly killed me. It also taught me the difference between success and significance. The room quieted, even the children sensing something important. My wife Catherine died 2 years ago. During her illness, I threw money at the problem like it was a hostile takeover. Built hospital wings, flew in specialists, negotiated with death itself. But I couldn't sit still during her chemotherapy, couldn't hold her hand without checking my phone, couldn't be present for the one battle that actually mattered. He found Emma in the crowd, Sophia's arm around her shoulders. Both were crying. This foundation is Catherine's dream made real. Not because of my money just builds buildings, but because of what we learned in the breaking. That love isn't a transaction. That time isn't renewable. That the only real wealth is measured in moments, not markets. Richard touched his chest, feeling the steady rhythm beneath his palm. I had cow arteries now, 4 of them. My brother's kids think that's hilarious. But those borrowed parts remind me daily that everything is borrowed. Time, health, love, all of it temporary, all of it precious. He raised his teacup to Catherine, who tried to teach me these lessons gently, to Emma, who forced me to learn them dramatically, to second chances and Swiss hospitals and the terrifying, beautiful work of living with an open heart. Welcome to the Hartwell Family Foundation. May we all learn to let go of what doesn't matter and hold tight to what does. The applause was warm, genuine, nothing like the calculated clapping at corporate events people approached with their own stories of loss and recovery, and Richard really listened to each one. Hours later, after the last guest had gone and the greenhouse was restored to quiet, Richard found Emma and Sophia sitting on Catherine's favorite bench, hands intertwined, no longer pretending. Finally, he said mildly. Emma startled, but didn't let go. "How long have you known?" "Approximately forever. Your mother would be thrilled. She always said Sophia was the only one of your friends with sense. We weren't together then," Sophia protested. Details. Richard sat beside them, bones creaking slightly. "Though if you're going to date my daughter, we should discuss your intentions." "Dad, what? I'm traditional now. Comes with the cow parts." He grew serious. "But truly, I'm happy. Love isn't something to postpone. Trust someone who learned that the hard way." They sat in comfortable silence, watching sunset paint the greenhouse gold. Tomorrow would bring more work, families to help, programs to launch, a foundation to grow. Richard had cardiac rehab, meditation practice, the careful maintenance of his repaired body. Emma and Sophia had their new relationship to navigate alongside their work. But tonight, in Catherine's greenhouse with his daughter happy beside him, and his heart beating its borrowed rhythm, Richard was exactly where he needed to be. "Tell me about the Banner crisis," he said. "I feel like I missed quality entertainment." "It was physics' fault," Sophia insisted. "Banner physics isn't real physics," Emma countered. "Everything is physics when you're falling off a ladder." Richard listened to their affectionate bickering, adding commentary when needed. Somewhere above, he felt Catherine smiling, her greenhouse finally filled with the life she'd envisioned. His watch beep medication time. For once, Richard ignored it. Some moments were worth a skip pill. Some conversations couldn't be interrupted by schedules. He'd take the medication later, right now. His daughter was laughing. Love was blooming. In Catherine's garden, and Richard Hartwell's broken and repaired heart was full. The empire he'd built would outlive him, but this moment, this family, this purpose, this imperfect, perfect life, this was what surviving was for. His heart beat on, steady and strong, for cow arteries and one rescued daughter in a greenhouse, full of tomorrow. Not bad for a man who'd spent 40 years building the wrong things. Not bad at all. The foundation's first gala shimmered with understated elegance. Richard adjusted his bow tie, first formal wear. Since surgery, watching Emma work the room with natural grace. 6 months operational, 200 families helped. Tonight would fund 500 more. You clean up well for someone with cow parts, David said. Approaching with champagne Richard couldn't drink. Never letting that go, are you? Never. David studied the crowd. Catherine would be proud. She'd be fixing the flower arrangements. Harrison Chen materialized, Richard's former rival. Attempted hostile takeovers twice. Richard, you look different. Dying does that. Heard you've gone soft. Charity work. Harrison's smile cut sharp. Very noble. What do you want? Come back. 1 year. Consultant role. Help merge our companies. I'll donate $50 million to your foundation. Once, Richard would have calculated angles. Now he saw a man who'd never learned what mattered. No, $75 million. Harrison, I have cow arteries. A daughter who talks to me and work that matters. Your money can't buy that. Everything has a price. That's where you're wrong. Richard walked away, forgetting Harrison instantly. Emma introduced Sophia as our CFO and my partner to donors. Public acknowledgement, new courage. Richard listened to fears from families facing treatment, sharing what he learned about being unable to fix everything. Richard, Margaret Sullivan froze him, Catherine's best friend, who'd vanished after the funeral. Maggie, they embraced carefully. I didn't know you were coming. Emma invited me. Said it was time. Tears threatened. I'm sorry I disappeared. You reminded me of her. Everything did. I hid in work. You hid in distance. Same cowardice. They found a quiet corner, trading memories. Maggie had stories. Richard never knew Catherine in college, before him, as her own person. She worried about you the last year, said you were disappearing into yourself. She tried reaching me. I wasn't reachable. Richard touched his chest. Took a heart attack to crack me open. Emma's speech captured the room. Mom died of cancer 2 years ago. We had the best medical care money could buy. What we didn't have was each other. Dad built empires. I built walls. We competed over who could hurt more while showing it less. Her voice stayed steady through tears. 6 months after Mom died, I fell off a yacht. My father, overweight with heart disease, jumped in to save me. He died for 90 seconds. Those seconds changed everything. Later, Richard stood on the terrace overlooking Manhattan, former empire, now just scenery. Sophia joined with tea. Emma killed it. We're past our fundraising goal. She paused. Thank you for accepting me. Not all fathers would. Acceptance is learned. Slow student, but trying. Richard studied her. When did you know about Emma? Sophomore year. She carried 7 boxes of books into our dorm, complaining about stairs. I thought, well, there goes my simple life. But you stayed quiet. Wrong timing. She was straight, then grieving, then angry. Sophia smiled. Then her father nearly died, saving her, and perfect timing seemed less important. They returned to find the evening winding down. Richard helped stack chairs, refusing special treatment. You don't have to prove anything, Emma said. Not proving. Participating. Different thing. The clean and companionable silence. Your speech was beautiful. We did it, Emma said wonderingly. Actually did it. You did it. We all did. Emma took his hand. Go home, Dad. Tomorrow we continue changing lives. Richard drove home to his empty penthouse, but empty didn't mean lonely anymore. The space was full of Catherine's memory, Emma's laughter. Purpose. His phone showed 17 missed board calls. Richard deleted them without listening. That life was over. This life, careful, connected, meaningful, was everything. The 3 a.m. call shattered sleep with particular dread. Mr. Hartwell, Mount Sinai. Your brother David was in an accident. You're his emergency contact. The world tilted. Richard moved on autopilot, dressing, calling Emma, racing through empty streets. David lay unconscious in the ICU. machines breathing for him, face unrecognizable. Richard. Sarah collapsed into his arms, brain swelling. They keep saying wait and see. He'll wake up. Hartwells are too stubborn to die easily. But looking at his brother newly returned after 20 lost years, Richard felt the lie. Death didn't care about stubbornness. Emma arrived with Sophia, taking over logistics. Richard sat with Sarah through hospital time endless, but too fast. Jamie arrived from Boston. Pale and shaking. Is he going to die? Jamie asked during shift change. I don't know. Honesty mattered more than comfort. But he's fighting. He talked about you constantly. Said getting you back was worth almost dying. Jamie's voice cracked. I can't lose him now. Day broke gray. Emma forced Richard to eat, walk, medicate. Can't have another heart attack. One crisis at a time. Dr. Martinez appeared at noon. Swelling stabilized. Will reduce sedation. See if he responds. They gathered around David's bed. Sarah leaned close. Baby, can you hear me? We need you to wake up. Nothing. Richard remembered this dance from Catherine, professionals balancing hope with reality. He settled into the bedside chair alone. Remember when we were kids? That summer I pushed you off the dock. You couldn't swim. I jumped in. Pulled you out. Mom beat me with a wooden spoon. He took David's hand. You saved me this year by forgiving 20 years of absence. Don't you dare die now. Sarah returned at midnight. They played Springsteen softly. David's beloved boss filling sterile space. During Thunder Road, something shifted. David, Sarah, gripped tighter. Did you squeeze back? They waited. Then definite David's fingers tightened. Get the doctor. Chaos erupted. But through it all, David kept squeezing Sarah's hand, fighting back from wherever he'd been. His eyes open at dawn, unfocused but aware. After extubation, he whispered, water. Then Sarah, then Al, hey, little brother. Richard managed through tears. Nice of you two. Join us. David attempted an eye roll, so perfectly himself everyone cried harder. You Hartwells. Dr. Martinez said later, normal people don't survive what you boys do. Stubbornness. Richard said, an excellent women who won't let us die. The ride home felt different, colors brighter, air sharper. Richard had spent 40 years building walls, thinking isolation meant strength. But sitting beside David's bed, he'd felt real power connection transcending blood. Love conquering statistics. His phone rang. A known number. Richard declined without checking. Whatever it was could wait. He had a brother to visit tomorrow, a foundation to run, a life to live fully. David would recover. They'd make up for lost decades. And when death came again, they'd face it together. Family who'd learned love was the only wealth that mattered. Spring painted the greenhouse in hope. Richard watched Emma teach insurance appeals to exhausted caregivers. Documentation is ammunition in the cancer war, she explained, formidable in compassion. The renovation crew's here, Marcus announced. Ready to break ground, the foundation had outgrown its space in months. Richard grabbed the ceremonial shovel, then paused. Get Sarah. She should break ground. They've needed us most. Sarah appeared, still thin from stress, but smiling. I can't. This is your hour. Everything here is our. He handed her the shovel. David wanted you to know he's proud. She dug into earth that would shelter other families through their worst days. The crowd applauded. Board members helped families, staff become family. Richard, Jennifer Walsh stood at the entrance's former CFO from Empire Days. Jen. They embraced awkwardly. What brings you here? Curiosity. Had to see if rumors were true. Richard Hartwell teaching meditation. She studied him. You look younger. Dying and resurrection will do that. How's the company? Thriving. Jameson's good, less obsessive, more collaborative. Stocks up 40%. Once that would have burned. Now Richard felt mild interest. Good for them. Do you miss it? The game. I miss the clarity. Business was simple. Make money, beat competitors. This is messy. No metrics for healing. But you're happy. Content. Better than happy content stays. He watched Emma and Sophia. Wedding rings catching light. They married quietly last month. My daughter's alive and loved. My brother's recovering. I wake without chest pain. The rest is details. The Richard I knew would call that settling. The Richard you knew was an idiot. He paused. How are you really? She started to deflect, then crumbled. Exhausted. Haven't vacationed in 3 years. My daughter graduates next month. I've missed most of it. Want advice from a reformed workaholic. Go to graduation, take vacation, The company survives. Your daughter won't be 18 again. Easy for you to say. I made my fortune and lost my family. Took cow parts to get them back. Learned from my mistakes the empire means nothing if you rule alone. They talked more, but Jennifer kept glancing at the support group. Could I observe? Can't observe, only participate. She hesitated, then joined the circle and started crying. Jennifer Walsh, billion-dollar negotiator, talking about her father's death and working through his funeral. Richard walked the grounds. Finding David's youngest, Grandpa Rick, Tyler ran over. Dad's at therapy. Can I see the butterflies? They checked chrysalises together, Tyler chattering about school and soccer. Normal things Richard had missed with Emma. Dad says you saved his life, Tyler said. Doctor saved him. I just sat with him. But sitting with someone is saving them, too. Being there means they fight harder. From the mouths of babes, they watch butterflies emerge, wings transforming from crawling to flying. Like us, David said, appearing with his walker. Like us, Richard agreed. That night, Richard reviewed grant applications when Marcus handed him an envelope from London lawyers. Inside, one paragraph that tilted the world. Our client recently passed. You have a grandson, Oliver, age 7. The boy's mother specified you should know only upon her death. Time-sensitive custody matter. Dad, Emma read his face. What's wrong? He handed her the letter. Watched shock cycle across Catherine's features. This has to be a mistake. But Richard was already calculating. 8 years ago, London. European expansion. Catherine's first treatment. One terrible night with Alexandra Morrison, the British attorney. He confessed to Catherine immediately. Oh, my God. Emma sank down. You cheated on Mom. Once. One awful night. I told her everything. And now there's a 7-year-old boy who lost his mother. Emma stood abruptly. I need to process this. The phone rang. London lawyers. Ms. Morrison passed 2 weeks ago. Cancer. Oliver's in foster care. She named you as who should be informed. He has family. Me. My daughter. The words came without thought. What do I need to do? You want custody. You've never met him. He's autistic. Needs structure. He's my grandson. We'll figure it out. Emma returned, crying into Sophia's shoulder. How could he do that to Mom while she was sick? Because I was weak and terrified. I ran from pain into the worst mistake of my life. Richard entered slowly. But she forgave me. Said cancer would take enough without taking our marriage. A child. Emma straightened, showing Catherine's steel. When do we leave? They flew out that night. Oliver sat at the foster homes table, ranging blocks and patterns, not acknowledging their arrival. Hi, Oliver, Emma said gently. I like your pattern. He glanced up briefly. It's a Fibonacci sequence, right? My mom taught me those nature's secret code, spirals, shells, and galaxies. A tiny smile flickered. They talked carefully about coming to America. Oliver asked about Wi-Fi. For physics lecture, 7 years old watching physics on YouTube. You're old, he told Richard. Emma coughed, hiding laughter. I am old, but stubborn. Very reliable. The next day's blurred paperwork, packing, Oliver explained each book's importance. Tolerated Richard's presence. On the flight, he explained. Bernoulli's principle to the crew, clutching his mother's photo, but not crying. The greenhouse captured him completely. Fibonacci, golden spirals. He helped Emma water plants, asking about pH levels. Your grandmother Catherine loved this greenhouse, Richard said. Is she past tense too? Yes. But the flowers remember her. They established routines triangular. Toast. Physics videos. Telescope time. Oliver slowly relaxed. Precision softening toward childhood. One night. Why didn't you know about me? Richard chose simplified truth. Your mom and I weren't close. She chose to raise you alone, did a wonderful job, but now she can't. So you came. Family comes when needed, even if they don't know you exist. Especially then, Oliver adjusted. The telescope. Will you become past tense too? Someday, but not soon. Cow parts keep me going. Cow parts tell me everything. Richard explained surgery to a 7-year-old who understood ventricles better than most adults. They talked until stars appeared. This brilliant boy emerging from Richard's worst mistake to become unexpected gift. Later, Emma made list school, therapy, physics camps. He's going to be okay. We all are. They'd survived death and disease. Broken hearts repaired. One brilliant grieving boy only made them stronger. In his room, Oliver slept precisely, his mother's photo nearby. I'll take care of him, Richard whispered to Alexander's image. He'll be loved completely. His repaired heart beat steadily. Their broken family now sheltered a boy who understood sequences, but would learn love followed no patterns. They'd teach him together, weaving futures from fragments of loss and wonder. November brought snow and Oliver's first Thanksgiving. He arranged place cards by conversational optimization. Tyler can't sit next to Jamie because they'll talk games and ignore everyone. 6 months in America had transformed him incrementally. Still precise, still physics-obsessed, but smiling more, accepting Emma's hugs. Letting Tyler drag him into spy games involving trajectory calculations. If Uncle David drops the turkey, impact velocity is 4.7 meters per second, Oliver informed Richard. Let's hope he doesn't drop it. I could devise a pulley system, maybe next year. The house filled David's family, Marcus with his boyfriend, also Marcus, cosmic joke. Jameson's family. Even Dr. Brennan claiming to monitor Richard's holiday eating, but really just lonely. It's logarithmic growth, Oliver said sullenly. Family expands exponentially when love is the constant. Where'd you learn that? Emma taught me. Math is everywhere, even in feelings. Dinner was chaos, multiple conversations, spilled gravy. Tyler's predictable disasters. Oliver initially covered his ears, then adapted. Even laughing at Jamie's terrible jokes. Can we invite Miss Peterson next year? He asked sleepily. My teacher. She eats lunch alone. Of course, Emma said. Logarithmic growth, remember. Richard caught Emma's eye. 6 months ago, she'd been furious about Oliver. Now she taught him emotional mathematics. Evening brought quieter conversations. Oliver picked out harmony on the piano with David. Your grandmother would have loved this, Richard said. Present tense, Oliver corrected. Love doesn't become past tense. Energy just changes form. After precise bedtime, Richard found himself on the porch with Emma, Oliver's teacher, Miss Peterson. He mentions her constantly. We should invite her to Christmas, playing matchmaker, playing family maker. She's young, brilliant, loves Oliver. Emma grinned. Asked about unmarried male relatives at conferences. Emma, what? You're only 60 with cow parts. That's young. A year ago, dating would have been laughable. But now, with a full house and repaired heart, we'll see. Richard conceded. They watched snow fall on the greenhouse where tomorrow Oliver would count crystals while Tyler built ambitious snow forts. Love you, Dad, Emma said easily now. Love you too, even with cow parts, especially with cow parts. Richard deleted a bored message unread. Whatever it was could wait. He had snow to watch and a grandson who needed telescope help tomorrow. Time was treasure, Oliver taught him that. And Richard Hartwell was finally wealthy in all the ways that counted. Christmas Eve arrived in perfect snow. Oliver calculated fractal patterns while helping Tyler build Einstein's snowman. The hair's aerodynamically impossible, he declared, adding more anyway. He's good for Ollie, Miss Peterson Lilla said beside Richard, holding hot chocolate, mid-30s. Real laugh lines, the kind who chose teaching for love. Emma's matchmaking had been subtle as a freight train, but somehow it worked. Thank you for including me. Holidays alone are, I know, spent too many that way myself. Richard watched Oliver demonstrate snowball trajectories. Thank you for being wonderful with him. He's easy to be wonderful with. Brilliant, but kind. She studied him. Oliver said you traded your company for a better life. That takes courage or desperation. Sometimes they look alike. They join the snow chaos, Jamie and Tyler's fort construction. Oliver's velocity calculations. Lily threw snowballs with surprising accuracy, statistically formidable, Oliver declared. You're different than expected. Lily said during a break. Oliver talks about you constantly, but I pictured someone more billionaire-ish. Instead, you're digging holes with 7-year-olds. Life's too short for dignity. Took too long to learn that. Emma appeared with cocoa reinforcements. Catching them standing close, her smile turned calculating. Stay for dinner, Miss Peterson. Oliver already set your place. At dinner, Oliver explained fractally festive Christmas trees while Tyler tested garlic bread's structural limits. I calculated optimal seating, Oliver announced. Grandpa Rick needed proximity to kitchen and you. Oliver, Emma fought laughter. What? It's data-driven. Planning. After dinner, Christmas Eve service, Oliver studying acoustics while humming. During silent night, he took Richard's hand, then reached for Lily's. Connection through proximity, Family through showing up. Walking home, Lily said, "He's never done that taking my hand. He's particular about touch. You're safe. He recognizes. Safe, do you? I'm learning. Safe isn't protection, it's connection. Would you like dinner sometime without mathematical matchmakers? I thought you'd never ask." Inside was Christmas Eve chaos. Oliver gave Lily a handmade mug, world's most optimal teacher with fractals, for science. He explained about measuring her hand size. The evening wound toward midnight. Richard found himself on the porch with David. "Lily seems nice," David observed. "She is. Oliver adores her. And you?" "I'm 60 with repaired heart and baggage. But yeah, I adore her too. Hartwells don't do anything halfway." They found Oliver asleep in Lily's lap while she read physics. Richard carried him to bed, tucking him with precision he preferred. "He's safe," Richard whispered to Alexander's photo, loved, happy, downstairs. Emma and Sophia showed Lily photo albums. Oliver's progression from rigid to beaming. "You've given him such gift," Lily said. "Stability after loss. He gave us the gift," Richard said. "Logarithmic love and optimal timing." They talked until dawn. When Lily caught his hand, "Thank you for showing second chances aren't just fairy tales. Third chances, in my case." Oliver is right about optimization. Some patterns take time to recognize. Christmas morning, it's 6:47, optimal present opening in 13 minutes. Oliver shrieked over a telescope upgrade, hugged Emma for physics. Camp enrollment, declared Lily's personalized lab coat most optimal present ever. Dr. Oliver Hartwell Morrison, future physicist embroidered with both names. Bridging past and present. The day unfolded lazily. Evening approached with Lily needing to leave. "Boxing Day party tomorrow," Emma interrupted. "Oliver's already calculating your placement." During the drive to Lily's apartment, Oliver dozed despite excitement. At her place, full of books and comfortable chaos. "This is lovely," Richard said, "meaning everything. After your house. Size doesn't equal home. Trust someone who learned expensively." As she gathered close, "Lily, I know this is fast and perfect," she interrupted, kissing his cheek. Oliver watched from the doorway. "Are you optimizing? The most optimal?" Lily assured him. "Good. Grandpa Rick needs optimizing. He's been suboptimal for years." Driving home through Christmas night, grandson discussing physics. Maybe something humming carols beside him. Richard felt wealthy beyond measure. Home meant the people who filled spaces between walls. The Boxing Day party hummed with controlled chaos. Oliver greeted everyone, explaining optimal conversation groupings while Tyler translated mathematics into human interaction. "You've built something amazing," Lily told Richard, watching Emma orchestrate with Sophia. "Not just the foundation, this family we built. Even you now, even me. Oliver's equations are never wrong. You're part of this." She leaned into him naturally. "I like being part of the equation." The party swirled laughter, tears, survival. Stories. Marcus recruited Oliver for mathematical meditation, calculating breathing ratios. David played piano imperfectly, but alive. "Look at them," Emma said, joining Richard and Lily. "Our beautiful, messy, optimal family, getting bigger," Sophia added, something in her voice making everyone turn. "Are you?" Emma's eyes widened. 10 weeks. We wanted to wait, but Oliver said concealing data skews equations. Joy erupted. Oliver immediately calculated due dates and nursery configurations. While Tyler declared himself best cousin ever, grandmother Catherine would be statistically pleased, Oliver announced. Family growth continues. Richard held Emma as she cried happy tears. A year and a half ago. Dying alone, wealthy wrongly, now surrounded by love almost missed. "Thank you," he whispered to Catherine's memory, "for forgiveness, for teaching, for sending this when I least deserved it." Grandpa Rick, Oliver tugged. "I calculated something." "What?" "Love isn't really mathematical. I tried equations, but it's like infinity. Always bigger than you can count." "That's the smartest thing ever said." Miss Peterson helped. "She says best. Things can't be measured, only felt. Miss Peterson is wise. That's why you should marry her. For optimization and wisdom, and because she makes you smile with your whole face." Richard looked at Lily, who pretended not to hear while blushing. "Maybe we should date first." Inefficient but acceptable. Oliver hugged quickly. "Love you, Grandpa." "Rick, infinitely, love you too, buddy." Beyond calculation, the party continued. Joy multiplying logarithmically. Richard stood in his greenhouse, grandson teaching Tyler about infinity, daughter growing life, brother whole, heart beating borrowed rhythm. He jumped to save Emma and discovered he'd been drowning long before water. But here, in warmth of connection, Richard Hartwell finally learned to breathe. The empire might outlast him, but this moment, this family, this second chance, this was what surviving meant. Catherine was right. Love was only wealth, time only currency, and family logarithmic, optimal, infinite, the only formula for life. Well, lived. Richard Hartwell, former billionaire, current grandfather, future husband maybe, was finally rich in ways that counted. His cow heart beat steady, counting moments of life transformed by jumping, catching, and holding what mattered most. The story beginning with a fall would end with flight, family rising together, bound by loss, lifted by love, proving best equations. Didn't add up, but multiplied endlessly, like Oliver's infinity, always bigger than anyone could count.